Everyone, Lorraine Smith of Trembling in Time Quilts here. And what I want to do is share with you a little bit about how we are going to put together the Astral pattern here. So most of you will have gotten this in them. Either you have downloaded it, which is probably the best and easiest way to do it. You may have ordered me a paper copy. If so, or paper copy from me. If so, it will be exactly what you would have gotten when you downloaded it. So when you do this, your first few pages are going to be the pattern and the instructions. The next 3 pages are going to be your templates, and we'll talk about those during the quilt along. The next pieces, and there's a lot of them, are the layout for this, okay? Now, I've given you the layout so that you can trace it or copy over it, or you can use it to measure. It's going to be up to you. We'll go over that during that. But several have expressed a concern over, okay, how do I put this together? So what we're going to do is cover this. What you should be able to see is that there are page numbers down here in the lower right corner. And what you'll see is there is some writing up along the sides here that say page 8, page 9. And that's this page that's going to go adjacent to it. Okay, there should be, think of little arrows being there. Now, I am going to show you how to put this together so that you feel very confident. And what you're going to need is this. I've printed mine on some pretty thin paper. It doesn't have to be really expensive paper to do this. I have a handy dandy pair of scissors and a thing of Scotch tape. Okay, so any clear tape will work. Probably not packing tape. So try to go for a smaller, like you're wrapping a present. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out for you. And so what you should notice is that you'll have pages 8 through 27. All right. And what these do is that you're going to end up with a nice little graph here, which end up being pages 8 through 12 are on the top row. Pages 13 through, I think 13 through, let me make sure I get the right number for you. 13 through 17 are the second row. And then pages 18 through 22 are the next row. And then you've got the last row, which are 23 through 27. Okay, so I was looking at these to make sure I've given you the right page numbers. And we're going to lay these out. I'm going to pause you for a second here while I get this kind of started down here. But one of the most important things is how you trim these. And I'm going to show you how to do that in twofold. But each of these pages, you are going to do the exact same thing on every one of these pages. I'm just going to emphasize, same thing on every page. What you'll see is there's usually a line. It might be darker or lighter, top and bottom here, okay? That's the outline. Now, you'll see that your writing gets cut off here on the bottom left, or the bottom and the right-hand side. We're always going to trim from the bottom and the right-hand side. Bottom and right get cut. Don't touch the other 2 sides. Bottom and right get cut. Now, here's the good thing. If you downloaded a copy instead of purchased it, you can print this again. If you're really nervous, print it twice, okay? But we're going to show you how to do this. Okay, so you see my pages here. What I am going to do is take my first row, which is pages 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to set the other ones aside for a minute. I have told you we need to trim the right and the bottom. What I am going to do is take my handy dandy scissors. This does not need to be a super straight line. You don't need a straight edge. You're just going to trim here, kind of try and make it parallel. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you're going to go right to the edge. Do you see that writing right there? Right to the edge of that writing. You're just going to cut off right to the edge of that writing. Okay? We don't need to do this. We're going to do this same thing on the right-hand side here. Again, trim right along to the edge of that writing. Okay? Does not have to be a perfectly straight line. Nobody's going to know the difference. This isn't used in any artwork. This is just a guidance document. Okay? we're going to trim that off. Now, when we get to this, page 8, page 9, right here, it says page 9. Here, it says page 8, okay? The bottom right corner where it says page 8 of 27, that's the actual page number. Where it says page 9 means that's abutting page 9. All right, you're going to tape those two pieces together. Okay, so I'm going to trim my page 9 also to that line. Okay, so first thing you might want to do is do all your trimming. So I'm going to trim this off here like so. Trim it off here like so. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. All we really want to do is get to the edges of those lines. The rest, nothing else really matters. Okay, so we'll do that one. We'll do this one. All right, and I'm showing you all of this so you know how it's done, okay? This, and remember, always from the bottom and the right. And you can always trim more later. It's kind of like your hair, except this doesn't grow back. So just don't trim too much. Okay? If you do, it's not a huge deal. Okay? And the last page, I am going to trim the bottom off here just so they kind of match up. But I really don't need to worry too much about the right-hand side because we're not doing anything with it. All right. So I've got my 5 pages. They're laid out in order. In order. Okay. Page 8, because this is page 8 of 27. Page 9 of 27. 10 of 27. So go by that lower number. You're going to take your page 8. Lay it next to your page 9. Okay, the numbers should match. So this points to page 8. This one points to page 9. You'll see what I mean when you're actually looking at the page. You're going to kind of match up these lines. Okay. And then we're going to carefully tape these together. Now, if you tape them wrong, it's no big deal. We retape them later. But you can see how you want to put together kind of a straight line. And it should, all your lines should match up. What I always make sure I do is I tape over right where you have one of your appliques. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. This is my page 9. This is my page 10. I'm going to match them up here. Okay. And there we go. Match my edges. Okay. And what you'll see is there is a kind of a line there that gives you at least some guidance as to how far you should be going. Okay. Make sure these match up pretty close. And I push my finger down to hold it still. There we go. That looks good. Match those up. You don't have to tape all the way, just enough so it stays in place. I'm using 2 pieces of tape about that long. Here we go again. This next piece here. I'm going to line it up. I probably trimmed that one a little too much on the bottom. Not a big deal. Not going to panic about it. Just want to make sure you have a continuous line. Okay. There we go. This one's about right. Okay. And then we're going to do the last one. Now, what I typically do is I will do these in a line. Okay, so I will do all of it, all the rows, and then I will attach the rows together. Okay, so these are going to be 4 rows, each row having, it looks like 5 sheets. Okay, so I attach the 4 rows, make each of the 4 rows first, and then I attach the 5 sheets after that. or the 5 rows together after that. And basically you want to use both sets of lines, the tops and the bottoms, and just zoom it in until you get where they all kind of match. There we go. And you're going to have to wiggle it a little to make it work. Excuse Fergus, he's a mouthmatic. That's what you hear in the background is my Fergus. And he's noisy. Okay. When you're on the quilt along, you'll hear him singing to everybody. That's his thing. Okay. There we go. Now we have our first row. So we'll make all 4 rows, and then we'll take the 4 rows together. And I'll show you more of that when we get into the quilt along. But this is just so you all know, your page numbers aren't messed up. It just tells you, just in case you're wondering what goes to what. So on the first page, you'll see it says page 9, means it's adjacent to page 9. Page 13 down here, because 13 will be below it. Okay. And then you've got, this is your actual page number where it says page of something. All right. And hopefully that will help. As long as you see those kinds of numbers. So on page 14, you'll see a page 18, a page 10, and a page 14 down here. And that just shows what they're adjacent to. Hopefully that will help you. And I can't wait to see you in the quilt along.